In the unforgiving world of Rayclast, where only the strongest survive, in a land where chaos reigns and danger lurks around every corner, one Titan stands tall. Introducing this Titan build, a colossus among mortals, this behemoth is a force to be reckoned with, crushing foes with unparalleled strength and resilience. If you crave raw power and relentless dominance on the battlefield, then this build is for you. Join me as we dive deep into the mechanics, gear, and skill tree that make a Titan an unstoppable juggernaut. Prepare to conquer easily the toughest challenges of Path of Exile 2 and leave a trail of destruction in your wake. This absolute beast can do all endgame content without even sweating. This warrior build is capable of more than 4.5 million damage. All your attacks penetrate the 91% of lightning resistances, which is more than enough for any content since resistances can't be negative on Path of Exile 2. Having a total of 640 strength, 500 dexterity, and 520 intelligence, this Titan build, I'm sure, will get you through all content and deserve many hours of gaming. This build have enough defense layers to keep you safe through the harder way stone mods and map bosses. With enough intelligence, you always keep a distance out of mobs and rare monsters. Everything get destroyed before they even show up in your screen. With enough armor to filter physical damage, enough evasion rating to dodge most of enemy projectiles and melee attacks. With all chaos and elemental resistances maxed, to ensure you won't get one shot by any enemy. A little bit more of 3,000 life and 180 spirit. Around 1 in 3 attacks are critical, and adding the critical weakness you apply with the cast on shock makes you able to land a critical hit every almost 2 hits. With a 560% critical damage bonus that can be raised easily. With a few skill tree readjustments, you will dominate all endgame content. Every Titan needs the right arsenal to conquer the battlefield. From the armor I use to the weapon, the gear you choose will define your gameplay. As we explore the gear combination for the Titan build, to make sure you leave a trail of vanquished foes and shattered enemies behind, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Let's begin with the armor. The Titan's armor is not just about protection. It's about boosting your attributes and to provide enough spirit to keep this build together. For this reason, I use the Grand Regalia, with 4 sockets, a 6% increased attributes, and a bricked +9 spirit mod to be way more cheaper. The gear is reinforced with runes to give stats to all elemental resistances and chaos resistance. This armor doesn't help to absorb the hardest blows and doesn't reflect an aura of invincibility, but it boosts your total attributes, and it's the only armor that gives percentage bonuses to total attributes. Pillar of the Caged God, the most broken unique weapon on this game. What do you guys think? I use one with a 12% corruption on increased weapon damage and infused with 2 extra raw lightning damage. I believe is the best for the Tempest Flurry. For the accessories, the 95% of the total cost of this build, rings, amulet, and belt. They provide the critical enhancements in damage and defenses. These are the main source of damage and can turn the tide of a battle, giving you the edge you need. For rings, I use these 2. One for extra stats and one for resistance. Both boost my build with raw lightning damage and percentage of lightning damage. Other similar rings can be used depending on your build, and definitely for mine, my next upgrade will be changing this ring somehow. For this build, I use the absolute best amulet for any stat staking build, and by giving the main base core of your attributes, Astramentis Stellar Amulet, with spaghettification allocated, but more of that later. Ingenuity Utility Belt, to boost your rings even more, giving you more attributes and more damage. Hand of Wisdom, of course, for gloves, that stacks attack speed per dexterity and lightning damage per intelligence with a 4% increased attack speed corruption. For helmet, I use this piece of gear with +1 to maximum power charges that gives evasion rating and some defenses. This is a cheap helmet, and because of that, instead of mine, you can use a helmet that gives attributes and defenses depending on what your build need. Same thing apply to boots. I use these cheap gear that boost armor, movement speed, and have some defenses on it. You can find one that gives attributes and movement speed if you manage your elemental defenses. Proceeding to skill tree and starting by ascendancies, you go for more life, extra inventory space, 50% increased effect of small passives, which is huge, and 50% more armor by equipped body armor. That stacks very well with this nod over here. More raw strength here. Most jewels look like this. Increased percentage of lightning damage. Increased critical damage for attack damage. Increased critical chance for attacks and lightning resistance penetration. This time-lost jewel gives increased effect on all small nods and increased critical damage on big nods, so more attributes and critical damage. This time-lost jewel gives increased effect on small nods and +1 rage on each melee hit, and by affecting 2 of them, that means 2 rage on each hit. More raw dexterity here, and more dexterity staking convert to attack speed here. That jewel allocates these 2 passives, and 1 had to be inside this area. And last but not least, the time-lost diamond jewel of this build. This one gives 4% increased strength and +11 on spirit for each allocated notable passive. One of the most important nods on your skill tree is this one, that makes your frenzy charges into power charges, changing your aura and mark frenzy charges into useful power charges. Now about the gems setup. First, the main skill Tempest Flurry. The support gem setup is this, with extra lightning damage, more area damage, more attack speed, more weapon elemental damage, and 40% less mana cost. For the Tempest Bell skill, I use these support gems. Lightning exposure to stack with this on the skill tree. Extra magnitude of shock, +1 to limit, font of mana, and extra 500% stun buildup every 5 hits. The Charged Staff. This skill is used to make you able to reach enemies out of screen. Support gems are chance not to remove charge, more skill effect duration, electrocution instead of shock. This is important to have infinite power charges, maim on hit, and increased area of effect. I use Cast on Shock to cast Sniper Mark and Eye of the Winter. Sniper Mark apply a critical bonus damage, and Eye of the Winter apply critical weakness. Also, the increased energy and refund support gems are used to sustain the casts of the spells. Combat Frenzy. The most important support gem here is the additional charge. I also use the 30% increased mana regeneration and recover 4% life on kill to recover more mana and life during battle. Herald of Thunder. Here I use Cold Infusion to add cold damage, more freeze buildup, 100% chance to blind, and Ice Bite support that gives 35% of the damage as extra ice damage to your attacks when freezing an enemy with Herald of Thunder. Herald of Ice. For Herald of Ice, I use Innervate to get 35% of the damage as extra lightning damage to attacks when killing a shocked enemy. I also use Longshot and Lightning Penetration support gems that I don't really need, because that makes lightning penetration up to 121%, which is more than enough. That's the setup and gear I use to my Warrior Titan build. As always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.